Hi everyone, this is Heather Lautinen from the Flourish.Academy. This is episode 560, and we received a really good question inside of our FA community group on Facebook. If you are not a part of that group, it is free. I will post the link below. Make sure that you join us. I started to type a response to this question, and it got to be a lot, and it was kind of confusing. So I thought I would address it via live video. That's a little bit easier for me. Let me give you the question. She posted, what are the steps to becoming legal? What's the approximate cost if I use someone to help me file? Are there yearly costs to maintain? And I mean a cost to maintain the LLC, not necessarily expenses. Should I hire a CPA? What do you pay yearly for a CPA? Who do you love? Insurance? These are all questions. Right now, I have my car and life insurance through State Farm, whom I like. What type of insurance do I need? I am willing to pay someone to do it all. Do these services exist? I'm overwhelmed, so please be kind. I appreciate any and all advice. Okay. So my first question, when somebody says, what are the steps to making my photography business legal? My first question is always, what is your goal? What are you planning to do? Because we can start with a very simple, straightforward approach, which, by the way, I think everyone should do regardless of where they want to take it. But you don't necessarily have to dive into all of these things at once. A couple of side notes. I have done several webinars around creating your business, making it legal, all of those things. Those past webinars are available to the Flourish Academy membership inside of the portal. So if you're a member, check that out. If you're not, you might want to join. I'll post the link below. If you want a step-by-step checklist, we get really in-depth inside of our Elevate program. So this is just intended to be a high level, to give you an idea of some things you might want to consider. Also, by way of a disclaimer, I am not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I'm not any type of official legal advisor. I'm not a lawyer. I am not any of those things. I'm just going to give you my experience and what works for me. And I'm specifically talking about the state of Pennsylvania because things may be different in your state. And I know we also have a lot of international members. So I obviously can't speak to the legalities in other countries. But I would say that for most people, the easiest place to start is recognizing the fact that if you are earning income from photography, you are already operating as a sole proprietor, which is perfectly legal to do. What you would want to do is track your income, your sales, and your expenses throughout the year. So you would have, this could be so simple. You could have this on a Google sheet, in Excel. You could have by month, these are my sales, this is my income. You could have another sheet that are all of your expenses. At the end of the year, it's really quite straightforward. It is income, sales, minus expenses equals your profit. And that's what you're going to pay taxes on. When you are filing as a sole proprietor, you would simply attach a Schedule C to your taxes. And all it is, a Schedule C, is a really, really straightforward form that is literally income minus expenses. Here's a number. I'm going to pay federal, state, and local income tax on that number. Done. Very, very simple and straightforward. Now, the next component is talking about sales tax, which you would need to collect and remit based on the laws of your state. In Pennsylvania, you need to acquire a permit. You can go to the PA Department of Revenue website. So in your state, Department of Revenue website, trust me, they want your money. You're just looking for somewhere to understand how to file your business so that you can get a permit to collect and remit sales tax. I submit my sales tax monthly in PA. I'm not sure what your state looks like. It's very straightforward. A lot of times for me, it's actually zero based on the services that I'm offering, but you still have to file that. So at a very simplistic high level, that's all you would need to do technically to have, quote, a legal business. You're operating as a sole proprietor. If you are paying taxes on the income or your profit, if you're paying taxes on your profit and you are submitting sales tax, you are a legal business. Very, very simple and straightforward. I think a lot of people get really confused and they make this assumption that in order to be legal, they need to be an LLC, a limited liability corporation, and that's just not the case. I know hundreds, dare I say thousands of photographers that operate as sole proprietors. It's perfectly legal. There's no problem with that. Now, if you want to take it to the next level and get insurance, then there are two types of insurance. There's equipment insurance, which if you don't want to get professional business insurance, you can call your local agent, the person that you use for your homeowners, and explain to them that you have a lot of photography gear. You'd like to have it covered. That's called a personal articles policy. They would be happy to help you. And they would give you a quote, and it's really very, very affordable. If you want more robust business insurance, which includes equipment and liability, that's different. I would recommend going through PPA. It's $323 per year, 20 some odd dollars per month, whatever that equals out to. Very, very affordable and fairly comprehensive. So I think depending on again, what's your goal? If you're making money on the side and it's fun, but it's not your desire to grow to a full-time photography business, then a sole proprietor with a personal articles policy, paying their taxes, is easy, straightforward, and legal. If you want to take that to the next step and form an LLC, you just have to ask yourself, why? Why do I feel the need to form an LLC? Is it really necessary, or could it potentially be overkill? Well, that completely depends on the situation that you're in. When I got into weddings, I wanted to have some protection between myself, my personal assets, and my business, because weddings are a highly emotional event. So in my mind, having an LLC, limited liability, was really important to me, along with proper business insurance, because weddings. Prior to photographing weddings, I wasn't as concerned with all of those types of legalities. I was operating as a sole proprietor. I had a personal articles policy for my gear, or my insurance for my homeowners. Very, very simple and straightforward. I got into weddings and I thought, this is a little bit different, highly emotional event. So I'm going to make sure that I have a contract, I have insurance, and I have an LLC to protect myself. This is a completely personal decision based on your goals. Again, I have a lot of friends, even wedding photographers, that are operating as sole proprietors, but they have business insurance and they have a contract, so they are protecting themselves. I just wanted another layer of protection because I am extremely risk averse. So that's why I formed an LLC. But as an LLC, I actually file as a sole proprietor. So you would have to work with a CPA, which I would recommend that you do, in order to understand all of these designations and what to do. And listen, a CPA is worth their weight in gold. If you hired one today and said, hey, I kind of don't know where to start with this, can you help me? They would be fantastic at steering you in the proper direction to make sure that you're paying your taxes, you're tracking everything appropriately, and they would probably recommend that you choose a certain tax designation. That's not for me to decide, that's for you to work along with the CPA. Part of her question was, how much does a CPA cost? Well, it's highly variable. I mean, you could spend $60 per hour, on an hourly basis, or you could spend thousands of dollars per year. I mean, it just depends on, again, your goal and what they're going to be doing for you. If you hire a CPA to help you set up some spreadsheets and your tax information, that will probably be less expensive than hiring a CPA, say, to set you up in QuickBooks and take care of everything for you, right? There's just different levels of service. So you'll have to decide what makes sense to you. Okay. We talked about LLC, sole proprietor. She asked about insurance. Again, two types of insurance. There's equipment insurance, there's liability insurance. You can get equipment insurance through your homeowners, but if you want to go with liability, you're going to need business insurance, which would be through PPA. And, LLC, you were asking how much does an LLC cost? You can hire a lawyer to do all of the documents for you. It's going to cost you more. Or you can do it yourself through LegalZoom.com or services like that. Back in the day, I used LegalZoom. I just checked on their website and it said LLC filing starting at $79 plus filing fees. Now, I know it's going to be probably at least $120 to $150, including those filing fees. And that's if you do all of the filing. LegalZoom has several levels of service. So you can see, like, there's one, it's like do it yourself. You know, you enter all of the information, you file the documents, and then there's a level where somebody helps you, and then there's a level where it's like they do everything. And you're just paying for different levels of service. I didn't find it that difficult. I mean, there were some things I was like, wait, what does that mean? But I went through the process. I thought it was pretty straightforward. I filed all of my documents, and I do work with a CPA, but I found that process to be easy-ish, a little confusing. And I did it on my own, and I paid like the minimum fee, and it was fine. But if you get really confused by all of those things, then maybe hire someone. But before you do that, I would ask myself, is this totally necessary? Do I really need an LLC, or can I operate safely and legally as a sole proprietor? The answer is yes, because again, many people are doing it. But that's just going to depend on your business, what you're doing, at what level, what your risk tolerance is, what that looks like, etc. I would recommend that most photographers have some type of liability insurance should something go sideways. So thankfully, I've had insurance for nearly 20 years. I've never had to submit a claim. Most of my photographer friends have never had to submit a claim, but it's important to have it just in case. So again, if you're doing, a couple of sessions a year for friends. And by the way, there are thresholds with which you have to pay income tax and when you don't. I am not going to speak to that. Go to the IRS's website and type in hobby business. And there's like a 25,000 step guideline and it's really gray. It's not very black and white as to when you can earn money from a hobby that you do not have to report as income. I'm not speaking to it because there are legalities there that I read it and I was like, okay, I think this means this, but it could mean that, and I'm not quite sure. So you could definitely check that out. Hey, if you're with me live, let me know in the comments if you have any questions on this. Just to review, I want to make sure that I covered everything. Again, we covered this in depth in several previous webinars that I've hosted. Those are still available in the FA membership. So if you're a member, log into the portal. Those are there. If you are in Elevate, we have checklists for this. So you can just go boom, 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 boom. But it starts with, the original question was, what are the steps to becoming legal? To which I reply, what is your goal? What are you trying to achieve? And is it really necessary to hire a CPA? Is it necessary to form an LLC? If you file an LLC, do you still need liability insurance? Yes, those are two separate things. Being a limited liability corporation is different from having insurance because if somebody, I don't know, if there was a lawsuit or someone sued you for something, they would be suing your LLC, which is that level of protection, but that's when your insurance kicks in to cover that. If you have liability insurance, I would read that carefully. So over the years, I have had different types of insurance through a few different companies. My first foray with insurance was with a company called Hill and Usher, and they were fantastic. It was a little bit expensive at the time. I wanted what I called crazy person insurance. What if a bride says, I hate my pictures, you ruined my life, I can never work again, I'm suing you for millions of dollars. Do I have coverage for that? And then over the years, more insurance companies started to support photographers and small businesses in different ways. I am a member of PPA for sure. I think that everyone should be. But I have my business insurance through State Farm. I am going to post several links in this video on the Flourish Academy YouTube channel. So go to YouTube for these links. I'm going to, for resources for photographers specifically in Pennsylvania, I'm going to post the accountant that I use now, the accountant that many of the FA members use. I will post links to LegalZoom, insurance, and my specific insurance agent, because I worked with her extensively several years ago. We did a video We did a video. There's a live video. If you dig back far enough, it might even be like 5 or 6 years ago. I don't know. Her name's Jennifer. And we did a video on insurance for photographers and what the risks are and what that looks like. And I probably drive her crazy because I come up with all of these wild scenarios and I'm like, well, what if I had a client and we were in a field and they got a tick and they got Lyme's disease and couldn't work or were seriously ill or something happened. Like, what am I covered for that? Yes, Heather, that's liability insurance. This covers that. And what if they tripped and broke their ankle? What if they, and then I asked like, well, what if they got really sick because they came in contact with some sort of bug in the woods where we were shooting and they were hospitalized or couldn't work and they sued, and what if and how, what does that mean? And she had this really interesting way of explaining that when you have, say, a senior and you're going into a field, that a senior or any adult, there's like an assumed risk. When I walk into the woods, there are going to be sticks. When I go into a field, there are going to be ticks. There's an assumed personal responsibility risk when you enter those types of environments. She said to me, however, if it makes you feel better and you want to say to your client, hey, we are about to enter a field where there could be bugs. Are you okay with that? If that makes you feel better, the client says yes, then there's a verbal agreement to that. Now, obviously, we also have contracts about things the photographer is not responsible for. All of this is like just in case the worst case scenario happens, which is exceedingly rare. But again, this speaks to your tolerance for risk. I have a very low tolerance for risk. Some people just like, some people are photographing, no taxes, no insurance, nothing, and living their dream. And that's great. They can do whatever works for them. But to me, it was because it was weddings. Everything else, I don't know that I would have been as crazy if it weren't weddings. But anyway, to wrap up, okay, CPA, yes, it helps to have a CPA because then you can sleep at night and you feel like you're making the good decisions. Do you need insurance? I believe everyone does need insurance. Do you need to be an LLC? No, I don't think you need to be could you? Yes, that's up to you. I would work with an accountant. Again, I'm going to provide some resources in the links and you can let me know if you have any questions. I hope that you found this useful. I'll see you in the next video.